Hi, I'm Daryle Williams, and I'm a faculty member in the Department of History here at University of California, Riverside. And my day job is serving as the Dean of the College of Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences here. UCR Arts is part of the college called CHAZ, and it's a great pleasure to be here this afternoon for the opening of the Christina Fernandez exhibition. I'm thinking particularly about the series Manuela Stitched, which resonated with me in kind of a sudden way when I saw them hanging on the walls. You know, they show these seemingly unattractive, almost really ugly buildings, unpeopled. And so then I read a little bit more about them and was drawn then to the understanding of how Christina Fernandez was looking at these buildings throughout Los Angeles, throughout Southern California, as places of lived histories of work and labor, particularly for Latina and Chicana, Mexican American, but also for other women from other parts of the world as garment workers, as laborers, as migrants, and of course what we think also about their lives outside of the workplace as well, but particularly this focus on this workplace, which the photograph seems to suggest from the outside has no people, or the people, you only see traces of people, and actually we know a little bit more from the way in which her method was to take these photographs was that there were people inside laboring. So that led me to think about how and when do these women enter these landscapes, enter into these built environments, and the doorways themselves, featured there, the noise, the sounds, the smells of the garment industry, the danger associated with it. And then some of the backstories about some of the things that in a kind of ethnographic method that Christina Fernandez came to discover as she was identifying these places and visiting them and speaking to some of the workers there about their labor, their lives, their fear of border patrol or migration, La Migra. So kind of thinking about how, again, this unattractive, physical built landscape, unpeopled, really was very much about very human experiences. And then there's kind of this other piece here, particularly when I look at this one called San Pedro Fashion, red brick building that maybe dates from the 20s or 30s, that then has all these grates on it and windows that have been closed up and then adapted, and then there's some small signs there which announce or sort of advertise what the name of the business, so you wouldn't really know what kind of business is taking place there, what kind of activities. Right up on the street, there's no greenery, there's no trees, there's no landscaping, per se. And there's a street and telephone poles and utility wires and things like that. And I was like, wow, that's a pretty bleak streetscape. But it's a streetscape that's certainly common to our state, to Southern California. We know that even if we think about our state being so spectacularly beautiful and its natural environment. But this isn't one of those places, but yet it is Southern California, or it's California. It helps me kind of think about the many different Californias, but particularly what a lot of California actually looks like, not palm trees and beautiful water and beautiful sunsets. But also my long experience living in Rio de Janeiro, where the area I do my research, and how much this scene looks like a lot of places in downtown Rio, certainly on the outskirts of this city, of low-slung buildings that have been adapted many times, the grates, the chains, which seemed almost to be abandoned, but they're not. Abandoned by work, by people, by living, but they're not. And to recognize when you're on the street, you'll see folks walking around and putting placards up and engaging with the built environment, but also the kind of noise and the smells. And I see that in this photograph, which I think is dated 1996, San Pedro. But as we see from this series, it's one of many spaces, similar spaces in California, and it kind of gets me to thinking about how I've been in and lived among comparable spaces in a city like Rio de Janeiro, and imagining that this is something we'd find certainly throughout the Americas, and then the connections, I suppose, that we could think about the experience of Latinx in the United States and Latin America more broadly, including places like Brazil. So again, this is relatively new material to me, the Christina Fernandez's work. It's a moment of discovery and of interest, but also is something of recognition and the experiences that I've had, but also some of the things I've come to understand about what life is like in the Americas, and particularly Latin America, broad Latin America. So I thank you again for this opportunity, and I wish everyone here associated with this show great success in sharing Christina Fernandez's work here and many of the other locations where this show is going to go, but also for us to think about how important it is that the arts, and particularly Chicanx arts, Latinx arts, are to here at UCR, but also to Southern California. So thank you.